Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aligning with Purpose, a podcast where we explore themes of finding your true purpose, from quitting corporate, moving cities, practicing holistic health, and more. Join me as we discover our purposes together. My name is Juli, and I'm so happy you're here. I'd like to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Monet Maeda. She's a really good friend of mine, and Monet is based in Los Angeles, California, and she took a sabbatical earlier this year from her social media marketing career to fulfill a bucket list item, travel to Japan for 3 months. She's happiest when she's active, creating things, and connecting with people who energize her. And I'm so happy to be talking to you, Monet.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
I know. I'm so happy that we're chatting because one, me and Monet now are long distance besties because I moved to New York earlier this year and we've been keeping in touch obviously through video calls and texting and all of that. So it's nice to have you on the podcast and see a familiar face.
Oh yeah, like I've seen you plan this podcast from before you even like launched it and just like ideating. So honestly, it's really cool to be a part of something that you've been working on for so long.
I'm grateful that we get to chat and talk about your life today because you have so much perspective that I want to talk about here. And especially you having the courage to even quit corporate. I know we both did that earlier this year, and that's a huge step and figuring out where you are in your 20s. So, before we get into all that, though, I do want to talk about our Beauty and Humanity segment. I want to start off with you and sharing a moment from your week or this month, if anything has happened that stuck out to you.
I'm so happy to share because I feel like not much has really stood out to me for the past like few months, but recently I was at the mall and we were at the Grove. And so the Grove has like, from the like ground level, you have to go up escalators to get to like different parking levels. And so my boyfriend and I, we were, going back to our car and he had just like gotten his validation at the Cheesecake Factory. And so we were like, oh, yes, they did it because we didn't even eat there. But like, Grove charges $5 flat rate. So we were really happy to get that validation. And then we're like walking back to the car, and I'm like, oh, like just put it into the little parking machine to make sure that we don't have to pay anything. And so I'm like standing next to the machine, and he is like looking in his pockets. He's like pulling everything out, like his wallet, his phone, everything. And he's checking everywhere. And I'm like, what happened to it? And he's like, I don't know. And like he's like pulling his pockets out of his pants, and we're both just like staring at each other, like, where is it? And then as soon as we're both like confused and staring at each other, and just standing in front of the machine, this like couple comes by and they're like, "Hey, like, did you lose a ticket?" And then we're like, "Oh my God, yeah, we did." And they're like, "We actually saw it in like the ground level, like the first escalator. There's like a ticket that was had fallen there." So they're like, "You should run and
Oh my
like grab
gosh.
it." Yeah, and so we like ran down the escalators and it was there. And we didn't have to
Wow.
pay the fee of like losing a ticket. So yeah, it was
Wait,
so
so
kind of them.
it was like a double, like, thankful moment because Cheesecake Factory gave you validation, and then
Hmm.
there was a nice couple of that like, connected the dots.
Yeah, and I'm just, like, so grateful that they were, like, aware enough to even, like, notice that in the first level, because we were probably, like, 4 levels up, so it wasn't even like they had just seen it, but it was like they probably walked by it, and they're like, "Oh, someone lost their ticket," and then they caught us, like, looking frazzled and, like, confused, and were able to, like, think, like, "Oh, that's probably their ticket," and so, yeah, it was honestly such a cool moment.
I know, like, and also, what are the odds of them also being on the 4th floor when there's so many parking levels? Definitely,
Yeah.
I feel like there's someone or something looking out for you guys, and I'm so glad that happened because those moments, I feel like, make you feel a lot of gratitude and, like,
Mhm.
yeah, thankfulness.
Yeah, and I feel like that day was just like really good, like vibes everywhere, and like things were just feeling really positive because we went to Ralph's, and it's not that like this is something that was like super positive or anything, but it was just like a really cool and like genuine moment. And so we were just gonna get like some high noons because I was going to a Friendsgiving, and so I just like grabbed a box of them. So we just had one item, but like everyone's busy, like they have their carts filled, and so all of the lines are like kind of long and like a lot of things people are holding. So my boyfriend and I were like going to different lines and like standing in two different ones because we're like, let's see what goes faster and like just being like, trying to be silly about it. And then this guy is like shopping by himself and he has like his cart completely full and he sees us and he's like kind of smiling and laughing and we're, like joking around. And then he's like, you guys should just like go right in front of me. And then he's like, "You only have 1 item." And I was like, "Oh, like, no, it's okay, like, we'll just, wait in the side." And he was like, "No, no, no, like, literally, you just go next. Like, I have a huge cart, but you only have 1 item." So we're like, "Oh my god, thank you so much." And so we just, like, went in front of him and, like, it went by, like, so quickly because of that. So, yeah, it was, like, something he really didn't have to do, but I think it was, like, a cool moment where we connected with him, and then he, like, did a little favor for us.
I love moments like that because obviously bigger gesture. I mean, it's not even a big gesture, but things like that don't happen every day. I feel like when things like that happen, it does give more perspective and like maybe I was getting jaded with all the bad things that are happening, but these moments kind of reframe my mind to be like, "Oh, wow, like there's also such great people out there," and it makes me wanna, like, pay it forward. I'm glad you got to experience those things. I had a similar experience. Last week, I was shopping at Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's workers are always really kind. I've never really met a rude Trader Joe's employee, but I will say my mom wanted me to grab those small, like, mini tote things that go, crazy, and so they were all sold out, and I went to 2 Trader Joe's, and I asked about it, and they weren't the kindest there, so I was a little bit disappointed, but it quickly turned around because I went to Trader Joe's again for Thanksgiving shopping, and when I was at the cashier, we were just having small talk, just talking about they have this new French onion popcorn that's really good, by the way, actually. So I was talking about it, and we were just having such a short but pleasant conversation, and I was like, "Wow, people are just so cool." It's small things that connect us, and I love finding those small moments in or beauty in, like, the small moments because those are the ones that are, like, hit home the hardest, and
Yeah.
it was making me glow, so I'm glad we were both able to experience something at the stores.
I know, and I feel like because everything is, like, so online, and even I have, like, social anxiety sometimes of, like, even making small talk, and it's just I think, like, the thought of doing it is, like, kind of daunting, but then once you do and you make that connection, you're like, "Oh, that was actually really nice." And it kinda makes it feel, like, a little less scary to, like, connect with people in real life and experience something like that, so it was, like, a moment for me to think about, maybe I should be, like, reaching out to people more when I'm out and, like, trying to form, like, these human connections, not just online.
No, that's a great point, and a challenge for everyone will be to find a moment in the store or not just online, but when you're out and about to find that moment with someone, a stranger or someone that you might have not, made a connection with otherwise. Monet and I have been friends for I don't know how long at this point, 4 years? I wanna talk briefly about how we met before we get into your life.
I love that story.
I know, me too. Do you wanna share it?
So we met on Bumble BFF, and I think it was a year where like you and I were both kind of like figuring out, our 20s and like trying to expand like our community and find like-minded girls. So I feel like we were in the same place and luckily found each other on Bumble BFF. But I was basically on there because I wanted to find some Japanese friends. So I just don't have a lot of like Japanese American friends, and I feel like I wanted some girl friends who were Japanese American who I could, kind of relate to in different ways that maybe I can't with other friends. And so I had found you. I saw Hina, so I reached out to both of them, and I was like, we should all just hang out together. And so that's how it happened. And we ended up getting Korean shaved ice in Cape Town together and like talked, and it just like was such a fun time for us. And I think luckily we had so many other ways to like spend time together after that, and that's kinda how our friendship was able to grow.
I'm so grateful for that connection. I was on Bumble BFF. I was still living at my parents' house at the time, and I wanted to look for roommates, and I felt a little apprehensive of putting myself on Instagram or Facebook to look for roommates. It's funny because I did that for New York, but I think in LA, I just was like, "Why would I post myself there?" So I was on Bumble looking for roommates, but I ended up finding really good friends, you and Tina from it, and I'm just so grateful because, 1, finding friends in your adulthood is more difficult because when you're little, you're becoming friends over, being silly and, like, playing house or doing silly things, whereas when you get older, I feel like our personalities I don't wanna say they harden as we get older, but I feel like there's a lot more awareness, and that causes us to not or at least for me, it made me not be able to like show up as authentically as I wanted to early on. And beyond the catch-up dinners, I was like, "Okay, how am I going to pursue this friendship and continue it to develop into something more and deepen the relationship?" So, with you and Tina, I feel like we were all meant to meet, and I'm so grateful that there was a tool like Bumble BFF. So, if anyone is looking for friends in their adulthood, it's a really good resource, and 4 years in, I'm like, I know that we have so many years of such good memories to make together, even if
Mhm.
it's from afar.
Yeah, and we like went through so many different like versions of ourselves too in the last 4 years where I feel like that first year we were like all, corporate girlies and kind of grinding and like going to workout classes and that was like kind of what we were into. And then now, yeah, like you and Hina have completely left corporate. I left corporate for, Japan and all that. And right now I'm like figuring out, which direction to go to. But it's yeah, really cool. Like we've just been in like so many different stages of our lives together.
It's crazy the evolution. Yeah, the 4 of us were in our corporate careers, girl bossing, and we had a different idea of what success looked like, and now we've all left, and whether or not we're, like, hovering with the idea of going back, right? Like, our lives can go in so many directions, but it's cool to see us pursue so many different avenues and take those risks. How did you choose social media marketing as a career?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of things in my life just kind of like happen in not a rigid way. I used to be more of like, oh, why can't I be someone who like, plans my life like day by day or like year by year and make things happen in that way? But I realized things kind of come into my life when they're supposed to, and I've learned how to like ride it. So, with social media marketing, I went to college for communication studies, and I honestly just chose that major because I didn't know what I wanted to go into. Like, I don't like math, I don't like science, and nothing else really intrigued me. But I chose communication because that just seemed like the most like broad, I guess. And then I was working at Din Tai Fung. I was about to start training to become a server, but then one of my best friends, she works as an intern at this hair care company, and she told me, like, "They're looking for a digital intern, like, you really like social media." Like, I loved posting on Instagram, I loved taking photos and just, like, creating things, so she was like, "Maybe you would like this." And so I interviewed, they liked me, hired me, and then from then on, I realized, like, I was in marketing, and I wasn't just in, like, social media, it became marketing, and it just kinda happened without me realizing that I was gonna become a marketer. But I liked where I worked, and they gave me a lot of opportunities, and so I was able to really learn marketing and, like, be able to apply social media to marketing too, and then now I'm here with that.
So did you stay at that same place for all like, your whole career up until you left corporate, or
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, like, I was there I've worked on 2 different brands. I was an intern, got hired full-time onto one brand, and then went on to a different brand 2 years later. So I was within the same company and same office, but just working on, like, different teams.
I know you said you liked social media, and everyone Monet is really good at social media. If you need advice, she is the person to go to. But 1, you're really good at it, and I guess what made you realize that you wanted to quit something that you were good at? Or was it the corporate environment that made you realize that?
So from the start, like I didn't think I was ever going to be in like marketing or like, trying to sell things to people. That wasn't really something that was in my head ever. It was more of like I just liked the social media part of things and creating stuff, creating like video stories and just being in that space. But I think once I realized like, oh, I'm like selling these products to people and I don't fully like even like the products every time. And, that's normal. I think every marketer can relate to that. Is that like not everything that your brand produces you're gonna like and you're gonna really be able to stand like fully behind. And so there were some products where I was like, this sucks, but I have to sell it as though it's like really great. And so, would come up with the copy and the content and like really push it because that was my job. But I felt like it was a little like what's the word in disgenuine?
Disingenuous? Is that the
Disingenuous, yes, that's
word?
how it felt. It felt like that, and yeah, I just didn't really feel like I was providing value or real value to anyone. I was more of like trying to sell them something that like could or could not be great for them. But yeah, I just didn't really feel like in alignment with what I felt was right and what really like actually brought me fulfillment.
I can relate to that. I also had a career in marketing before quitting, and I was doing movie marketing. So I think in the beginning it was super glamorous, I guess. It was exciting, going working red carpets and doing all these screening activations and all of that, but I quickly realized one, it was really cookie cutter. You're doing the same thing for every film campaign, and two, it wasn't that creative. At least for movies, it almost felt like a crutch because you already are behind a big corporate brand, and the movie likely has big stars in it. So you're not really doing anything creative. You already have backing that is going to sell the
Right.
product
Hmm.
itself. And then like the biggest one for me was it just felt disingenuous, like you were saying. Even if I thought the movie wouldn't do well in the communities or the market that we were selling to, we still had to push it. And
Right.
it just felt like I wasn't making the impact that I wanted to. So, when did that switch happen for you? When did you start to realize that what you were doing is what you liked, but it wasn't, you didn't like selling certain things to that you didn't
I
believe
feel
in?
like when you said it was like cookie cutter and like you were doing the same thing over and over again, that's where I realized that it felt that way because yeah, I was just like every launch and everything that would come out, we do the same thing for it. And, we were told like, this is the product, this is like the copy behind it, this is initiatives. Now, like, come up with like social media copy and like what you want to do with it, work with influencers. And I think at first it was like really exciting, but like you said, like you keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's when I started to realize like it's not as like exciting, it doesn't really feel fulfilling, and it just feels like I'm just trying to, like, sell a product to someone, but it didn't feel as, like, genuine as I feel like the person that I am.
From that thought, how did you get to quitting corporate? I know that's a huge it was really hard for me to build the courage to do that. How did you build the courage to do that after you had all these realizations?
Well, I feel like when you quit corporate, it came from a place where you were like, "I'm so over the corporate world, and I'm over, like, these companies and this lifestyle, like, kinda dictating what I can do next and what I can do with my life." And so I feel like you were, like, removing something that was, like, blocking you potentially from doing what you wanted to do. I think mine was more of, like, I knew that I was at this company for too long, and they were really great, and I loved working there, and it was, like, a great environment, loved my coworkers, and so, like, nothing was bad, and so nothing really gave me a reason to leave, but I had something on my bucket list that I really wanted to do for a long time. It was something where even, like, 2 years before that, I was in a long-term relationship, and he was like, "I would never move to Japan," and that's what I wanted to do, was move to Japan. And I wanted to just experience living there, like, I'm born and raised in LA. I, like, love LA too, but I think I just wanted to experience being somewhere else and living somewhere else and, like, kind of taking that challenge too. Just because 'cause I'm so comfortable here, I think there's so much growth that I have experienced here and that we've both experienced together in LA, but there's also, like, a different type of growth that you get from, like, living somewhere else or just, like, doing something on your bucket list that you've never done. So, yeah, I think that kind of propelled it was just wanting to experience going to Japan and realizing that, like, leaving this job is, like, not the end of the world. I'll find something after, like, figure out what I wanna do later. So, that's when I decided, like, it was time to just leave and then, like, time it so I could go to Japan right after and go there for a few months.
I remember us both planning our exits, but for different reasons, and I'm glad it happened around the same time because we were both giving each other a lot of encouragement and support. I know you were in Japan for 3 months. How did you choose the length of time to go? And yeah, what was your experience like? We'll talk more about it, but I guess start where you wanna start off.
Yeah, I think actually, so I had always thought that, like, I wanna go to Japan for a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna be, like, a few months or a year, but I don't exactly see myself living there long term, but it was just, like, a lifestyle and something I wanted to experience for a little bit. And so, basically, 3 months is, like, the visitation visa, and then after 3 months, you gotta get, like, an actual visa to stay there, so I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna keep it easy and, like, just do 3 months and not have to worry about all the visa stuff." And also, like, I don't know if you ever talked about on your podcast, but, like, we had both gone to that medium. and like spoke to her.
Mhm, yeah.
And so when I spoke to her about Japan, even before that, she kept telling me, she was like, "Where you are right now is home, and it's where you feel like the most rooted." Like she can really see that LA was somewhere that I felt like was home and my roots were. So she was saying like, if I feel good here, then like this is where I'm supposed to be. But I told her like, "Hey, I do want to go to Japan for a little bit. Like, what can you tell me about that?" And she said like, "Yeah, I do think like if you go to Japan, you will really gain a lot of things and learn so many things, but probably won't be somewhere that you're gonna be long term, unless that changes, obviously, like, it's all up to me," but she was saying, like, what she feels is that it's just somewhere for me to go, learn a few things, and then come back. And so that really, I think, validated that I was only gonna be there for 3 months, like, I had already had that planned. When she told me that, I was like, "Okay, then I feel like I'm doing the right thing so far, and it feels correct."
Yeah, I haven't talked about my medium experience yet, and I am excited to talk about it, but I'm so glad you introed it because, yes, Monet and I went to go see a medium, and she is wonderful, by the way. I'll get into that more later, but I remember during this time in my life, I was planning a more permanent move to New York, and I think when you're going through your own life path, you kind of wonder, like, since everything is a mirror to you, especially if you notice it, I kinda was like, "Oh, like, why not longer for, like, other people or this?" But I've come to realize that everyone has such different life paths, and every lesson is supposed to serve them. So, even if I'm going more permanently for, other people, more something more temporary is, like, appropriate or maybe not appropriate, but, like, that's what they wanna do, and I'm glad you were able to get that clarity from Sophie to know, like, how long you were going there for. Because for you, like you said, LA feels like home, and I think that is a beautiful thing t when you find somewhere that's home to really make it a home, because where you feel rooted, that's where you feel where you could grow the most too, and I'm glad you were able to pull from the different experiences when you went to Japan.
When you were planning your move to, like, New York, I don't think it was ever gonna like, from the start, you were like, "I'm moving." Like, even before, like, you even confirmed it, you're like, "I wanna move there permanently." Right?
Yeah, it was weird, like, I did reference this part, but I was also going through a breakup many years ago at this point, and I was talking to a friend on call, like, the next day, and the first thing I blurted out was I could finally move to New York, and I had never visited New York in my life, but I just had this gut feeling, and my soul was telling me, "You're meant to go there," and who knows how long I'll be here, but it's something that I knew was in my path. In Japan, what are some of the things that you learned about yourself that you wouldn't have gained in LA?
Mm. So, I think my main goal of also just being in Japan by myself was to push myself to be on my own. I feel like I've always been someone that has really been tied to my community and been surrounded by my friends. And I think staying in my hometown too, in LA, like all my friends are kind of still here. Like most of them are all still here. So luckily I've had like such a great, like solid friend group here. And so I've never really felt alone. But I think one of like my biggest fears is being alone. And so knowing that, I was like, I should push myself and like do something where I am forced to be alone and like show myself that I could do it. And it's not like I will survive after doing it. And so I went to Japan with that in mind and then, knew that I was going to spend a lot of time by myself. I do have family there. So, I got to spend time with them. But most of the time I was on my own. So I gained a lot of, I think, just like confidence and validation that I could do it and that I could be on my own and I could, I could explore a place by myself and meet people. I made a lot of new friends while I was there and like had to put in the work to meet them, of course. But I think it just like really gave me a lot of confidence that I could even do it and a new kind of growth. And I also had like some weird spiritual experiences too. So I learned a lot about myself in many different aspects.
I don't know if you wanna go into your spiritual experiences, we can go into that if you want to, but when it came to, I guess, being okay with being on your own, I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with in their adulthood, and I can also relate to this because I have always had roommates, and I think I'm someone who will always have roommates, but even going to dinner on your own or doing a solo vacation or stuff like that, it's hard for me to do because I feel like I need people around me, but there's so much beauty when you can be, I guess, enjoy your own company and be at a place where you feel so comfortable with it. So that a lot of props to you for doing that because it's definitely really hard to put yourself out there, and when you're alone, then it does force you, like you said, to make a community for yourself.
Yeah, I do think, like, I'm a person where I have to experience things for it to be, like, a lesson, and it's more of, like, I like to also experience things as lessons, so, like, if I look at my human design too, it kinda talks about how I part of my purpose here in this lifetime is to experience things so that I can learn from it and, like, share my story. So every time something happens, I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Like, I learned something from it, and, like, now I can, like, hold that with me and, like, take it with me and, like, share it if I need to." So I think Japan was, like yeah, like, also something that I can now, like, share the lessons I've learned, but also things I've learned about myself. Like, with the whole, like, spiritual thing happening, I think that was, like, a sign that I was still, like, not fully grounded with myself and comfortable, and I still felt like I myself, like, was not enough. I think I've always just, like, relied on other people also to help distract myself from, like, different bad energies or, like, spaces where they don't have, like, the best energy to, but I think even being by myself forced me to only rely on myself, and in Japan, I had a really hard time doing that. It was also just another lesson that I should be, like, trying to ground myself and trust myself more.
I think it's just really powerful that you're able to take your experiences, positive and negative, and use it in a way where it benefits you. I think that is the ultimate form of growth is when you can reframe it for and see that everything is coming in as lessons. Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you that you're able to do that and take the opportunity and also to challenge yourself to go to Japan because I know by yourself because it's not easy and quitting your corporate job is also not easy.
I think, like and quitting it too, like, when I did quit and I was in Japan, I was like there were moments where I thought, "Oh my god, I should be, like, looking for work right now. I should be applying to jobs," and this is, like, 2 months in, and I would have that in the back of my head, and I was like, "I should be applying to jobs." Like, if I talk to people, they'll be like, "Have you been applying?" And I'll be like, "No, I haven't." And then I thought, "But then also, I don't want to." And I don't wanna spend my time, like, stressing about my next job and, like, how what's gonna happen next because, like, I came to Japan not to save money, but to basically spend money and experience something new, and so I'm actually really glad that I didn't stress too much about it when I was there because it would have been a waste of time. Now that I've experienced it, I have figured out that I could figure things out when I want to, when I need to, and I can trust in things and, like, make things happen for myself, so I just wanna make sure that I spend less time worrying when I don't need to, and I wanna also tell everyone that too, is that, like, you should enjoy the moment and trust yourself that you'll figure it out, and things will fall into place the way it's supposed to, and you might, go through periods of, like, not really knowing what's gonna happen, but, like, in the end, you'll figure it out, so you need to enjoy the moments that you want to enjoy and that you wanted for yourself too.
You brought up a few really good points there, where one, I think it's good to live in the present. I mean, I think there is an aspect of looking to the past and future to grow some aspects of it, but I think it's really important to stay focused on the present, and that's what exactly what you did. And also when you're talking about when people were asking, "Are you doing this and that?" You still stayed true to yourself to do what was best for you because there's always going to be outside noise, and it's important for you to know what you want because you are the creator of your own destiny. And I think we've lived through similar themes in terms of, I don't know, a lot of the outside noise that comes in and in the decisions that you're making, but then at the end of the day you have to know where you wanna head, and also to know that not everyone's advice is solicited, and not everyone's advice is great either. You have to have a lot of discernment in knowing who to take advice from and, like,
Right.
and not just take in everything.
'Cause I think people's, like, advice, I do appreciate all my friends and family who do care for me and like want to share their lessons too. Like I want to share my lessons, but again, like these lessons come from our own experiences. And so it's always going to be different of like how we do things. So like you said, like we will listen and should always be open to it, but just sometimes it doesn't always apply to us in the way that it does to them. And that's where I think we are both learning to figure out how to like separate that and stay
Right,
true to
right.
ourselves too.
In that same vein, do you feel like your mindset has shifted from where you were at in corporate, so a year ago, and now after quitting, experiencing new things, and now you're freelancing, which we'll get into, but how has your mindset sort of shifted?
I have been really fortunate to have been able to figure things out since I've come back from Japan. Even to like even do the Japan trip, I think was such a luxury that I know a lot of people don't have like the means to do it. Doing that really kind of opened my eyes to realizing that for me, like what is important and what I really do want to focus on and has always been a core part of me is like finding fulfillment outside of like always the material things. And don't get me wrong, I am a materialistic person. I do like having things and like, looking good and like things to look good, but I also think I have a boundary with that too. And like for me, I know that like, having the nicest car or, like, having the nicest bag isn't gonna bring me happiness, and it's always been something where I'm like, "I want why would I spend so much money on something if, like, it's not something that I know is gonna fully, like, bring me fulfillment?" And so, I've always been, like, kinda torn between that, between, like, liking material things versus also, like, wanting to be aware of, like, not of, like, the material things not bringing me fulfillment. I think with, like, being a freelancing now too, I'm realizing that, like, the things that will bring me happiness and fulfillment isn't gonna come from maybe my job, and that's okay too. I was, like, stressing a lot in the beginning about, like, finding something that is, like, going to make me happy and that something that is aligned with my purpose, but I'm also kind of deciding or playing with the fact that maybe work isn't gonna be fulfilling for me, and I had to find that outside of it.
How are you balancing then now? Now that you're back and you're discovering what is going to bring you fulfillment or not, how are you doing that with your freelancing journey now and gaining fulfillment outside of the things that aren't doing that for you?
Like I said earlier, I think I am someone that needs to experience things for it to become, like, factual. I have to go through it for me to be able to be like, "Okay, like, this is, like, what I wanna do, and this is how I wanna move forward." And so, I think doing this freelance role again, like I'm doing, has given me the chance to try some new things in my career, and there are things that I really enjoy, like video editing. I'm doing a lot of video editing for this freelance role, and so I really love that. And I'm making like, collages and like kind of putting things together as images together. And this is what I thought was something that I really enjoyed and like brought me happiness. But I think doing it as my job doesn't necessarily bring me fulfillment. But I still love doing it. Like I enjoy it so much and it does like get the creative juices flowing and I feel really good doing it. But I realize that my job will probably never bring me fulfillment. And that's okay because at least I enjoy what I'm doing. And so I am kind of toying with the fact that that might be what the reality is for me, is that I won't find it in there. So I'll have to find it elsewhere, which I think I do a really good job of like making sure that my social life is like how I want it to be and that I'm like creating connections and reaching out to people that really energize me and making sure that I spend time with them. So I think that's maybe where I'm going to find the most happiness is just doing a job that that helps me live and keeps me living well and doing things that I enjoy within the job, and then finding fulfillment through connecting with people in my life and, like, experiencing things.
I agree with that. I don't think that your job has to be your passion. And I think that's a big lesson I learned in the last 7 years too. And prior to quitting, I always thought that I attached my identity to my job so much that I thought that my passion and success, all of that had to be, associated with my job. And like you, I'm like learning that it doesn't have to be that way. A job can be a means for you to make money, and you can also find fulfillment in other aspects of your life. And that's completely okay. I think there are so many ways to live your life, and if you can find fulfillment in your job, that's also beautiful. But I'm learning that there's so many avenues, and I'm glad that you found what's working for you, or you're figuring out what's working for you, because I think there's this unspoken pressure, especially with young people graduating college, to make sure they find a job that they really like and all that. Of course, in the perfect world, that's the case, right? But I think there's also a part of reality that we forget when things are constantly being fed to us by institutions, school, and everything. So
Yeah, like for me, maybe, who knows? Maybe I will figure it out and, I will find something as a job where I'm like, this actually fuels me and this fuels like why I want to, like my purpose in life. And I think we're all meant to like figure out like how we want to do it and like what feels right to us.
how then do you find or how are you currently then defining what success means to you? And this can be very broad because you can apply it to career, your life, and however you want to interpret it, because I've also had an evolution of what success means to me.
I'm so curious what to like for you or like what success means to you because I was thinking about this recently and like had a talk with it with my friends.
Mhm.
And, a lot of them were saying how like they feel so much like pressure to succeed and to like meet these goals. And I think for me, what success means is more of like a feeling and it's not something where I can like check it off and be like, I did this, now I'm successful. I realized that for me, feeling successful is when I am at like an emotional state where I feel really happy, I feel really comfortable, and I feel loved, and I have a lot of love to give. And that's where I find success. So I think doing that for me has been really helpful, which I didn't realize I was doing until recently. Basing it off of that has been able to help me just find like things that work for me and like that do that for me versus like I need this specific role, I need this specific job, and that's going to bring me success. I feel like it's a little bit more disconnected to how I'm feeling and what kind of feelings those are going to bring me because it's more of like, it's not a feeling, but it's more of like a written out goal where I think I'm someone who's more of like a feeler. So, yeah, I realized that, where I want to find success and where I want to find happiness is my state and my emotional state and like how I feel at the moment.
I'm also similar, whereas if you asked me this question 10 years ago, I probably would have said success is checking things off your list. Maybe not even 10 years ago. This was even like 5 years ago. And that's why I was trying to pursue the big corporate companies and having the big name brands. And as it started to get more toxic, I started to realize, why is my identity so attached to these companies? Because that's not really me. And there's so much more that I want to achieve rather than just this one job. That this job is having such a hold over me. And I rely on it when I talk to others too, where, it's like often people ask you the first question is, what do you do? And it's not
Mhm.
like a knock on people who ask that question. I think we're just misguided sometimes. But
Oh, yeah, like, I definitely asked that question too.
yeah, and I do it too, like, I try to be careful of it now, but I know for a
Mhm.
fact that I would use that question all the time, partly because I also just didn't know what to ask when I first would meet someone, but
Exactly.
I think it's, like, common, right? Where you're like, "Oh, what
Mhm.
do you do?" And then whatever they say as their job, like, you really attach their job to their identity, whereas, like, we have so many more facets. So, I've really challenged myself, like you said, to change how I define success, and like you, I think it's a feeling too, and what I'm learning is that success is really defined so differently by everyone, and it's also constantly evolving. So what it means for us now might not mean the same thing a year from now, 5 years from now, and I know I'm successful now if I feel happy, kind of like what you said. And if I know that I feel in alignment and energetically aligned with what I'm doing. So if I'm feeling drained by something, then I know, okay, maybe this is not aligned with me. And if I feel happy and if I feel really energized, then I'm like, okay, I'm in alignment. So I'm going
Mhm.
towards the direction of the success that I'm supposed to have. And I
Yeah.
think success also for me means like the amount of growth that we're putting into our individual learnings and not comparing it against other people. So if
Hmm.
I was at it 1 year ago, if I had the thought of I want to quit corporate and I did that, then that was successful because I acted on something that I wanted to and I made it happen. And whether or not that works out or not, that's a whole nother thing. But that point A to point B was successful because you made something happen and you have those lessons now. So, yeah, I think it's something that I think about all the time. And it is interesting because it is something that's not so concrete.
That's the word, concrete. Yeah. I think when you, which I think we've all been taught to do this because when we're younger too, where they're like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And you have to have a concrete answer, right? You can't just say like, "When I'm older for my job, like I want something that makes me happy, that like makes me feel fulfilled and makes me feel like I'm helping people." It's more of like, what exactly do you want to be? And so you'll be like teacher, doctor. And so then we keep going for that goal of like reaching the time when we can become a doctor, a teacher, but then we kind of lose like the feelings part of it. And so I think a great way that like I've been trying to do things is like, how do I want to feel with my job? Or like, how do I want to feel like living here? And if I'm like, I want to feel like really happy and I want to feel like loved, then the recipe comes after that. After you like kind of tell the universe like how you want to feel and like what kind of love you want to experience, what kind of fulfillment you want to experience, then the recipe will come afterwards. And I think that's when you can feel more aligned with what you're doing.
I guess this also segues to the term aligning with purpose, which is also the name of this podcast. For you, I know we've touched on this, but that specific phrase, aligning with purpose, what does that mean to you right now?
I feel like I struggle with that phrase right now because I am like trying to figure
It's
out,
broad.
yeah, but I think like I so badly want to align with my purpose and I want to figure that out. But I'm also realizing that who I am and like how I live this life is not very rigid. It's not very like it can be written out and like put on a piece of paper and like for me to put down steps of like how to live it. So I think aligning with purpose, I'm starting to come to terms with the fact that there will be so many different parts of my life that help me align with my purpose. And it's not going to be just one thing. And so I think I'm slowly figuring out like the different aspects of my life and working on each one for me to learn how to align with my purpose.
I like that you referenced not just having one, but multiple avenues. Like you're not limited or bounded by just one thing. You can have a lot of things for you to obtain what your purpose is.
That's like the beauty of life is there's so many different things we could do, so many different thoughts we can have and people we can meet. And I think all of that just like kind of comes together. When that feels really good, then you're aligned with your purpose. And I think for
Yeah.
you, especially, like so many things have changed since you've been in New York. You have new friends, you have a new job, you have a new interest and a new lifestyle. And I think you're just like, figuring out like what feels good. And when you feel good in this moment, that's when you're aligned with it. But I think your purpose could change as you do new things and you're experiencing new things.
100%. It's very similar to what we're talking about with success. It's ever evolving. And because we're living life, we're going to continue to experiment and see what that means for us. Maybe we're doing one thing and we're like, oh, actually, this isn't it. And then you like pivot and stuff. But that is meant for us to grow and learn from. And
Yeah.
I think that is also the exciting part that we get to do that with the life that we're given. So we have full agency of what we want to do if we take the opportunity to take full agency of it. So I'm really grateful that I have friends like you and friends that are allowing us to step into the version that we want to be. So I'm so grateful for this conversation and also having you on the podcast today.
Oh, yeah, I feel like every time I speak to you about this kind of stuff, it's like it's not something I have to explain. It's something that we like understand and we get. And that comes from like a lot of conversations that we've had. Like it didn't happen overnight. It was like us experiencing things and like having conversations together where I feel like we've come to a point where we speak about it and we understand each other and it just feels like you hear me and you understand me. And I feel just like really energized talking to
Yeah, me too. I'm so happy.
you.
Well, thank you so much, Monet, for spending time with us today. I'm always really grateful when we get to have conversations because it also makes me feel really energized and I guess like warm. I also want to give a moment to for you to share with our listeners about any plugs that you have. So, where can our listeners find you?
I guess you can find me on Instagram. I'm not like public or anything, but if you like want to connect and there's anything that maybe resonated you want to talk about more, like feel free to find me. It's underscore MNYYO.
I'm going to go ahead and link Monet's social down in the show notes so you can find her if you want to have a conversation. And I really hope everyone enjoyed this podcast episode. And if you haven't done so already, please like, share, comment on our podcast. It's going to be Aligning with Purpose. And you can find our socials on TikTok and Instagram at aligningwithpurpose.pod or at Julioshi, Juliyoshi. And if you enjoyed this episode and have been enjoying the podcast so far, please leave me a rating and review. It means a lot to have your support. And I'm so grateful to be able to share our story with you every week. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.